So much for coming by the office, and congratulations on the last successful mission. And first of all, let me thank you not only for serving the country, but also for your added mission of being such an outstanding promoter of this form of public service, and your willingness to reach out, particularly young people, and explain to them what it's like to be an astronaut, what it's like to be in the space program. Why don't you just give us a little bit of your own background? I know you're born in Ashland, raised in Ashland, and I grew up there. And then, what was the journey that took you into the space program?
Well, from Nebraska, in Ashland, I went to high school at Ashland Greenwood. Graduated from there, went to Hastings College in Hastings, Nebraska, and then followed that up with a graduate degree at Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa. Once I finished at Iowa State, I was lucky enough to get an internship, a summer internship, with NASA in Houston at the Johnson Space Center. And that was really, I think, one of the times that I thought, wow, I could really do this. I know I'm working with astronauts, I'm working with NASA. This is the dream come true if I ever become an astronaut.
Was your graduate degree in engineering?
Actually, yes, aerospace engineering after a physics degree at Hastings.
Good, that's outstanding.
So once I was in the summer internship, I applied the next year and got accepted again. And then that group that I worked with wanted to hire me. So once I got out of Iowa State, I was fortunate enough that the government didn't have a hiring freeze, and I was able to get in at NASA.
So you went into government service straight into NASA, almost out of grad school.
It's the only job I've ever had. So I've been a government employee since I went to Houston, and then I applied to be an astronaut every year after I became eligible when I graduated from Iowa State. So 15 years later, I was fortunate enough to get selected.
And what are the eligibility requirements that have to be met to be part of the space program?
Well, essentially,
it's
it's pretty simple. It's a bachelor's degree in a physical science, so math, computers, physics, chemistry, biology, any of those type, engineering, any of those subjects. And then you have to have a certain amount of work experience, but it's very small. So if you have a bachelor's degree, you have to work 3 years, a master's degree 2, a PhD none. And then you just apply. It's a government application, and you just have to be in the right place at the right time, apparently.
Well, again, we appreciate your willingness to do this. Let's talk a little bit about what it's like to actually be on the space shuttle, to take off, to engage in the mission. This is a picture we have of the actual takeoff. Explain the dynamics of that. We're all familiar, of course, with how you count down and the rumblings of the various engine starts, but explain those first few seconds as you're taking off. What's that sensation like? What runs through your mind? I assume you're so totally focused on your duty that all the external distractions aren't necessarily taking away from what your assigned responsibilities are. But talk about that dynamic.
We're way up here in the mid-deck, flight deck area where the windows are, and I'm actually for launch on the second floor, the mid-deck they call it. So I can't see anything. And we're laying on our backs for about 2.5 hours. And
you have no window view.
No window view. The guys up on the top, the commander and pilot, look out the front windows, but and then the overhead windows are kind of available, but you really have to tilt your head back to see. So anybody but the commander and pilot are limited in visibility, but once you're in there, you are worried about just relaxing and trying to just be calm, and then about 9 minutes before launch, when you know you're going to go, then it becomes very exciting, and then all you can think about is, wow, how cool is this? And you're waiting for the engines to light, and once the actual engines light and the solid rocket motors, these guys light first at T-0, and then the engines fire up, and you're on your way. And as soon as these guys light, you're going somewhere. You may not go to space, but you're going somewhere.
No turning back.
Because they burn for 2 minutes.
And
regardless,
drop off.
Right? The engines can shut off, but the solid rocket motors, once they're lit, they
what are the forces like on you as you're sitting there, particularly during initial stages of liftoff?
Well, it starts out pretty easy. It's a lot of rumbling, a lot of noise, a lot of shaking, but you feel pretty comfortable. It's like being on an amusement park ride. But the higher you go and the faster you go, the more G-forces you feel on your chest. So you'll get to about 3 times the force of gravity. So if you weigh 200 pounds on Earth, you'll weigh 600 pounds part way up to space.
Does it really force your face back? Do you feel it in your face the most?
No, it's mostly in your chest.
Heaviness on your chest?
Yeah, since you're laying on your back, that's part of the idea is you lay on your back so all the force goes through your chest, and it's easier that way.
those alarm bells that you're hearing are actually means that Congress is getting ready to come into session.
Oh, okay, so you're not gonna be late or anything.
We don't have to get up and leave, so we're in good shape.
Okay. But after 8.5 minutes, we're in space and you're weightless. So the forces all come off. You hear the engine shut down, so it becomes very quiet.
But those forces, how intense does it get?
For me this time it was pretty intense. My harness was pretty tight. I'm a big guy and they size harnesses for general population sizes. So I had the biggest one they had, but it was still pretty tight. So with that and the 3 times the force of gravity, I was pretty uncomfortable going uphill. So
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt your muscles per se, but it makes it very hard to breathe. So you have to take really deep and laborious breaths and then fire it out.
So that's done in 8 minutes, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
you're in space.
8 minutes and you're in space.
Right.